Should we be angry with Farage and the reform?
Or should we be really angry with Farage on reform? Stay tuned.
Good evening, fine folks of the rebellion. My name is Cliff Purvis, former British Army Corporal.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Russ, former British Army W2. Welcome to the 36th episode of the Recce Report.
Yeah,
good to see everyone here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I don't control my language tonight, it might be the very last one. Sorry. Right. I mentioned in the intro there about should we be angry, and you responded with should we be very angry. I, for one, am incredibly angry with Farage. I'm also equally as angry with the news outlets, with the TV stations, with the mainstream media, with probably the one exception of the National. Everybody else is sucking up to reform and to Farage. Right? These people may not quite be Nazis, but they are most certainly fascistos, right? And yet everybody south of the border is sucking up to them. They had just over a 30% turnout for the council elections in England and Wales that have just passed. And because reform got into a couple of mayors and a couple of councils, they are now seen as the rising sun over the British Empire. Well, if that's the rising sun, I want absolutely nothing at all to do with it. We need to vote come the 7th of May next year, and we need to vote for the SNP as our first vote. We need to vote for the SNP as our second vote, because there is no guarantees that we will get a majority with that first vote. Over to you, Russ.
I think well said, Cliff. I read somewhere that 22 Reform MPs have since either resigned or had to rebrand themselves as independents because they technically couldn't stand as Reform MPs and councillors in the first place. There was one serving RAF guy apparently who didn't realise he wasn't allowed to stand under a party banner. So he'll be in the poo a little bit. But yeah, I said to you before, I seen a headline the other day that said, "How do we explain the rise of reform?" from the Express. Because you've been platforming them, amplifying their voice. You've been doing it. You've been doing it for at least a decade, and you're going to say reform's not been in existence a decade. Well, it has, because it's been your UKIP, your Britain First, all these right wing. I don't know if you want to call them shadow corporations that have now morphed into reform, which is just a fundamentally swing of the Tory party, to be fair.
Yeah.
And you're right, the only way that Scotland can do something different, because it's clear that Labour are not driving it anywhere different, they're just Tory light at the moment, is to vote SNP, vote independents, vote progressive, and get the hell out of this rancid union.
Yeah. Right, yeah, just to bring in one of the Reform Party claims, and it's to do with climate change. And they seem to be living in some sort of ulterior universe regarding climate change. One of their comments was that the climate was 2 degrees warmer in Roman Britain when the Romans were occupying the UK. Yes, we were going through a mini heat phase. The world does that. The planet Earth does that. It goes through many ice ages, many heat phases, and that's the normal cycle of a climate. What's happening now is there is proof, irrevocable proof, that humanity with all our industry that has been on the go since the Industrial Revolution, right, has now been pushing more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and it's now getting to a tipping point. One of the comments they came out with said that it was 0.04% CO2 in the atmosphere. Your greenhouse has more than that. That's a non-comment. It doesn't make any sense. Your greenhouse, standing at the bottom of your garden, wherever you have one, if you have one, right, does not stop the heat from the sun escaping right from the planet. It stops it escaping from the greenhouse, so your tomatoes can grow or other plants. All right. It's just these ridiculous little pseudoscience comments that they are coming out with.
It's the populist way to do it, mate. They bring out simple but wrong answers to complex problems. And the thing is, people don't like complicated answers. They prefer the yes or no. And the truth is, not everything's a yes or a no. You see it in science. You've seen it with the whole thing, the COVID, the anti-vaxxers, all that sort of stuff. You don't have simple answers in science. You have complicated explanations, but you don't like to do that. It's easy to have the one-word answers. It's fake science. It's the immigrants. It's the elite. It's the political elite working against us. As says multimillionaire Farage, who's definitely not one of the elite.
Yeah, that's the other thing about it. Again, the media is at fault with this one. They have created this image of Farage, same as the media in Germany created the image of Hitler.
Yeah.
Right? Let's start comparing like for like here. Yeah, so Farage has been created as this person. He's a man of the man of action, a man of the people. Well, one, he's not a man of action. He ran and hid in a pub in Scotland. That's an action of a coward. He wouldn't stand up to people. Right? He refused then to come back into Scotland because there was various threats, undisclosed threats made against him. Right? He is not a man of the people. Right? He's earning somewhere in the region of £100,000 a month. He hosts the right-wing GB News programme. Now that should be a huge combat indicator as to where his politics lies. Right? And yes, he's now blaming the immigrants for the problem. It was only a few years ago he was blaming the EU. A few years before that, he was blaming the unmarried parents, usually an unmarried mother, sitting on a council estate with a 55-inch colour TV, plasma TV on the wall. Right? And that's who they were blaming. So they're just picking various people. The flavour of the month will be unmarried single parent.
It absolutely is, mate, and it's a common phenomenon. I don't want to insult the intelligence of our viewers, but if you want to go away and Google moral panic, you can see the playbook that is used by these right-wing populist parties. You find a demon, or you invent a demon. You make a big deal out of it. The media get on board, and it ends up, politicians get involved to make laws against something that was never an issue in the first place.
Yeah.
That's how they get away with what they get away with, because the people are, propaganda works.
Yeah.
There's a whole industry. It's called the advertising industry. Try to convince you to buy stuff, and if you think that can't be turned into making you vote certain ways or act certain ways, then you're incredibly naive.
Yeah, I mean, their manifesto on climate change, they came out with some weird, towards the end of it, they came out with some weird things about how they're going to improve things. They're wanting to start fracking. And I had to watch how I pronounced that. Yeah, now everybody agrees that's bad. That's why it wasn't banned in Scotland, because if it was banned in Scotland, it could be taken to court and potentially overruled. So it was only suspended in Scotland, and that was a very clever move on behalf of the Scottish government.
I think it was a loophole where it wasn't banned per se, but the planning application was reserved to Scotland.
Yeah.
So they couldn't ban it happening, but they could ban them building anything that would make it happen.
Yeah. So they're also trying to get clean synthetic fuel without going into detail. Typical populist statement. We're going to have jam tomorrow, but no idea how to make jam. And also the oxymoronic clean coal mining. Right. Let's have a big chat about that. How on this earth or any other planet do you clean or have a clean coal mining? Yeah, I've spoken to dozens of ex-miners, right, who have described how their life was down in the pit, the pit head. Me and you are both ex-service, and I would
Yeah.
never have gone into a mine.
No, you can't do it, mate. Sorry, I'm just going to highlight a quick comment here from Hashbury. He's received the communications from Labour, which shows their fear of both the SNP and reform. I think it's an important point. I think Labour's goal is to get elected, to get into Scotland, and we all know what happened the last time when Labour were in power in both Scotland and England from 1999 to what was it 2010, wasn't it?
And the one before that,
No,
2005.
2007. Sorry, 2007.
Yeah.
1999, 2007, the advent of the Scottish Parliament, where it was just rubber stamped everything that came from Westminster.
Yeah.
It was only when the SNP got in 2007 that we started seeing real changes happening up here.
Yeah.
And just to go back to a comment, I think someone's calling out your SNP 1 and 2. Oh, Jock is saying Cliff's on the methylated spirits. SNP doesn't work.
Jock, thanks for your comment, Jock. This is what we want here, wide open debate. I can assure you I'm not on methylated spirits. This is me without any all on board. Okay, buddy? Take on board what you're saying. If you don't want to vote 1 and 2, don't vote 1 and 2. I'm going to be voting 1 and 2, and that's how I'll ask people to do it as well. Please, you need to vote as you see fit. But let's get everybody out voting.
Definitely, you campaign for what you want. Trying to game the system, which I suggest is what you're trying to do. It's not going to work. The DeHont system, as imperfect as it is, does at least give a more representative result than the first past the post system. I think the Greens stand mainly on the list vote, and people vote for them. And if your party, or whoever you want to support, is number 2, does the same, then you have to campaign for that. You have to make that argument. What you can't do is get to the end of the election and blame people that didn't vote for you. Make that argument.
I know. I had that last Parliament, actually. I was accused in an open letter to the National. I was accused of knackering the Alba vote because of my comments. I was sitting there rather chuffed. I thought, well, if you want to stroke my ego, that's a good way of doing it. I don't have that influence. I know I don't have that influence.
Yeah. I can't even make the argument. I got quite a small constituency. There wasn't even a Green candidate on my paper the last time. It was literally the main ones and some fucking UKIP and Nosher. So I'm quite a small constituency, so it doesn't really apply to me. I don't really have much choice. But in the bigger places, Glasgow, Edinburgh, all these places, if you want your list vote to mean something different, you campaign for it. Yeah. That's all you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So taking on board what you're saying, guys, about the votes 1 and 2, and we are now. Me and Russ had a chat just off air before we came on here. We need to now start driving towards the elections on May the 7th. All right. We need to do it. Gloves are off, folks. We need to get everybody out to vote. If they don't, then that's how the rogues from across the border get in power. Right? We need absolutely everybody to register vote. Now, if you don't trust going into a polling booth to mark your X because you think things are going to get fiddled with, then you go for the postal vote. Yeah, that is an incredibly secure system.
Yeah, Hashper here saying SNP 1 and 2 may be practical in the borders and the Highlands and Islands, but not in the Central Belt. Okay. I've got to ask a question. You can answer to Jock and Hash. And I think Hash might have actually answered this before. He said he's going to vote Green, SNP 1 and Green Party 2. That's fine. That's up to you. I don't know who Jock is pushing as the second party. I've got no issues with you splitting the vote 1 and 2. But I just want you to make the argument for why that is. If they're polling well, yeah, absolutely. But if you're suggesting Alba, then you have to say what they're bringing that's different from the SNP, other than other than extremism, from what I can see, or pie in the sky policies that are never going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My one thing with Alba at the moment has been my one thing that I've always had with Alba, is I have not seen forward movement by them since they came into existence just before the last parliamentary vote for Edinburgh. Right, they haven't moved forward. Their ground base has not improved. They have never had anybody directly elected in any of the governing bodies, whether it's council, the Scottish Parliament, or the Westminster Parliament, and in fact they're going backwards. Everybody took a big hit at the last general election, but I'm not seeing anything change. And unfortunately, the one stabilising factor within that party was Alex Salmond. Mm-hmm. Right, as much as I fell out with that character, he was a stabilising effect within that party. That's gone. Yeah. Right, that's now gone, and I'm not seeing anything, anybody coming forward to replace the strength of character that he as a leader had. Right? Now, I may not have agreed with him, but you've got to respect how he conducted his leadership. So yeah, that is my gripe with Alba. I might be proved wrong. We don't know what's coming from the various parties as yet. Yeah, but I need to start going through all the party stuff, because if we're going to comment on it, I need to be able to comment from a position of knowledge. So I need to start reading my way through all the comments, all the printed literature for these people.
And I think you're going to see, because it's, because Labour's not even into the first year, I think you're going to see more and more Tory MPs defect to reform. I think you're going to see reform being platformed more and more by the mainstream media.
Yep.
And the voices of these people, of these right-wing extremists, are going to get louder and louder, because you're going to feel more and more emboldened. And that's how propaganda works, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and it's going to have a knock-on effect here. Yeah, we are going to see the Tory party in Scotland. Remember, there is no such thing as a Scottish Tory party. We're going to see.
We're not immune in Scotland to right-wing knuckle draggers, mate.
No, we're going to have it here, and they are going to start dropping down either as independents, or they're going to start coming out of the woodwork and actually joining reform. And we don't need that. We are not that country. We are much better than that. We are renowned for our tolerance. We are renowned for helping people out. Look what happened that time they tried deporting those guys when the border control force came in and lifted them. That van was surrounded, and even the police acted correctly that day. Yeah, fine, they're protesting, they're allowed to do that. We're not getting it. So I'm just coming flying, and somebody's falling out with their autocorrect. Yes, with that, yes, I've had one or two issues with autocorrect in my time as well. Yeah, so we're not that intolerant society, in spite of what the mainstream media is going to try pushing. They're going to try and push that reform is the only thing that can save Scotland. That's a heap of nonsense. It's rubbish, right? The only thing that can save Scotland is Scotland, and the only way Scotland's going to be able to do that is by becoming an independent nation, taking our place on the world stage again as a member of the EU.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Hitler had his first attempt in 1923. He didn't rock up 1939 and start the Second World War. No. He had 17 years of being ridiculed and pilloried and pushed about, and then before he got in. So, I've said before, we're at that stage in the history books where people ask, why didn't somebody do something?
Yeah.
It's up to you guys. It's up to us. It's up to all of us.
Yeah.
To use the power of the ballot to make a change.
There is no such thing in this upcoming election. There is no such thing as a vote that doesn't count. Every single person that is eligible to vote, and in Scotland that means 16 and above. Every single person that is eligible to vote, we need to encourage to register. We need to get them to get. Do they need ID for Scottish Parliament? I can't remember if we talked about. I don't think we do.
I don't
We
think
don't
you
need
do.
ID for a Scottish Parliament. That was one thing we managed to keep. So we don't have this disenfranchisation of the voters, right? But we need to encourage people, first-time voters. Right? We need to. Maybe they don't know history. I know that sounds like a Farage comment, doesn't it? Ugh. I apologise, folks. I will wash my mouth out with soap. Yeah, but maybe they're unaware of what's going on in the past.
Yeah.
So we need to educate them. We need to say, look, the difference. This is what's happening here. This is what happened in Europe. 100 years ago. Spot the difference.
And it's interesting, you see the rise of these people across the world. And the interesting thing is you've got people like Germany. Germany and Ukraine are the ones standing up against the tide of fascism, and France and various other people. Mentioned before, I don't know if this makes any sense to anyone, but Finland is about to come out of the Ottawa Protocol, which is the agreement signed quite a while back on the banning of anti-personnel landmines. And for those of you a certain age will remember Princess Diana having a big push against this, and they were banned. Lots of countries signed up to this. They weren't going to produce these anti-personnel landmines. In Finland, who shares an extended eastern border with a certain certain oligarchic nation of Russia, has now said they're going to start manufacturing these because they want to use every tool in their arsenal to make sure that Russia doesn't roll over their border in tanks. It's a scary world we live in, mate, and we have a choice. We have a choice in Scotland. We will have a choice in Scotland in 360 days, as you pointed out, to put your cross on the paper. You're crossing your number on the paper, and go in a different direction. And if we don't choose it, then maybe we deserve what happens to us.
Well, it's they get back to the Ottawa Treaty, whatever you want to call it. The major powers among non-signatories of that one were the USA and Russia. And India was in there, and Egypt also. So you can understand why Finland's want to do it, though. As much as I detest anti-personnel mines, mines in general. I've had to treat a few casualties from those.
I mean, we're ex-Scotties, mate. We hate bangy, shooty stuff more than anyone.
Yeah, but I can appreciate why they're Germany, I've just got a thing in from Euronews there. Germany has given Russia until midnight to agree.
Sanctions, I think you're going to freeze all their bank accounts and stuff,
I'm sitting there going, Berlin's ass giving an ultimatum. Get in there.
Unreal.
What a crazy world we're living in.
Eddie here saying we should make it policy that everyone has the responsibility to vote, just like they have in Australia. And you're right, in Australia it is. It's mandatory. They have mandatory voting. I can get behind it, I suppose. I think it should be. I think especially, we used to have a big in the forces a big push every year for voter registration to make sure people had the opportunity to do it, which is why we got so upset when prior to the India effort, people were claiming that Scotties couldn't vote because we knew they could. But I think everyone in the country, everyone that's in the country that should be in the country gets the national insurance number. We can track that since people turn 16, 17, 18, then they have to vote. But then we need to update the voting system as well, because turning up a polling station to put your cross in a box, so archaic, isn't it? We must be able to do it now on the blockchain or online or somewhere like that.
There has to be an easier way of doing it. Just seen a comment coming in.
Mate, if you can vote for the winner of Britain's Got Talent, you can vote for a fucking MP, mate, online. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a sad reflection. More people who turn out to vote for our competition than as a proportion of the country. The spoiling your ballot, right? That's entirely up to yourself. What we need is people turning up. And I always said to my two boys about voting, I says, I really don't care who you vote for. That's your own choice. That's your own conscience. I says, but what I need you to do, what I'd really, really appreciate you do, right, is you go to the polling station and vote. Yeah, and if your vote is spoiling your ballot paper, then it's spoiling the ballot paper. Right, and I have done that on occasion.
Yeah.
So annoyed was I with the campaign that I have spoiled the ballot. So turning up is the important thing.
There's a good question here from Helen. She says, "What's your feelings on the First Minister's comment on the percent of votes he wants to see for independence before he will act correct? Me, if I'm wrong, is that decision not up to the people?" Well, the political parties can have their own policy. My view is, much as it's been for most of the voting in this country, is that it should be a simple majority vote. And by that I mean a majority of the votes cast.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a majority of the population, but my view is if you don't vote, you don't get to count. You don't get to count non-voters as supporting your position.
Yeah, that's been tried before. Yeah,
that was what, 79, was it?
Yeah, when the Labour MP
yeah
brought that amendment in just before we went to the vote on that one. Helen, I'm alongside Russ on that. I'm sorry to cut across for apparently 4 minutes left, Russ. Where's this show gone? Yeah, Helen, I'm with Russ on this one. Yeah, political parties can make their own choices. A simple majority of the people that vote for an independent Scotland should carry the day. That's how democracies work.
Yeah. Hashbury commenting that he says John Swinney's not commented on a percentage required. I wasn't sure, which is why I didn't say anything. But it may be that somebody said it somewhere along the line. It sounds typically that something that would come from an opposition party rather than the Scottish government. But hey, we'll see. Hashbury getting out of George Cunningham introduced that rule in 1979.
There you go, Hashbury. You're on the ball.
Exactly.
I'm glad someone here is keeping track of what's going on.
I remember reading that Dennis Skinner supported it as well, which why he was never my favourite, like he was so many other people.
Yeah. Right. Can't see anything.
Well, before we finish up, Mike, I'd like to remind everyone that this week, the 12th to the 18th, is World Mental Health Awareness Week. The theme of which this year is community, which is very apt. So reach out to your family, reach out to your friends, make sure everyone's doing okay, look after yourselves. Mental health matters, folks.
Yeah, it does, very much so. And if you are sitting there with one or two issues, it doesn't make you weak. It's not a sign of weakness. 100% of the time, it's usually because you care, and that's why you're being affected. There are people out there. Reach out, folks. Don't be sitting suffering. Okay. Right. Where are we? We had 5 items listed.
We have 2 minutes left. If there's any final questions before we wrap up. But yeah, it's the sun is shining.
Yes.
The sun is shining. We're into May now. We've got another bank holiday to look forward to at the end of the month.
Right.
We'll be back next month on the second Monday. Don't make me do sums. You can work it when that is.
I can't. Sorry, I'm just wondering where the heck the show's gone. Right. Yes.
I think the 9th, maybe. Is that the 9th of June? Did you see me going through my fingers there?
Yes, it is the 9th of June, because that will be the first Monday I'm not working. Folks,
you're not working?
No, I am an old git now, and I have gone down to a 3-day week.
You have compressed your hours or reduced your hours?
Reduced hours. I'm working 3 days: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. So
that's good, mate. That's still 2.5 days longer than I work, even though I get paid full time.
Yes, that's because you're diligent, educated.
Don't tell anyone. So you started working your tan. You did have one of those. You did have one of those UV lights, mate, didn't you, at one point?
Yeah. What it is, folks, I've got psoriasis, and I have a UVB light system that I use, not to the agreement of my GP, but I'll take chances with that. So I use that. Also, where I live was an absolute sun trap over the weekend there. So yes, I was working on my tan. Yes, and I have got tan lines as well, which I'm sure everybody out there needed to know.
That's it, mate. I never leave the house, so that's why I've got the bath tan at all times. But everyone, thank you so much for joining us again this month. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the brilliant questions, and I hope you enjoyed the debate. And we will see you again very shortly. Cliff, final word.
Folks, as always, our future can be like the weekend just gone. It can be so bright, because independence is absolutely right.
Sarah Halber, take care.
Take care, folks.